Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another edition of Encounters here at Akal Channel, an ordinary conversation with extraordinary people. Today we speak to a very extraordinary man. His name is Dr. Jasjit Singh. He is a research fellow at Leeds University and an all-round member of the Sikh intelligentsia, for want of a better phrase. Without further ado, I am going to introduce him. And Paji, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I've attempted to introduce you. There's a lot more to be said than that, isn't there?
That was quite a lot, actually.
Do you think?
Yes.
Then you're underestimating how much there is.
But go on. Yeah.
Paji, you've basically had quite an academic life.
Well, yeah. Certainly, since I returned to academia in 2005. So before then, I was at University of Manchester. I did a good, Indian degree, get me married and all that. So it was a computer science and accounting. So I worked in IT for a good 16 years or so in various companies. But I basically found that I was always interested in Sikhi. I'd attended camps as a youngster. I was always reading, always interested in history. And once you've done that to a level, you want to kind of, do something else, do something further.
The fuse is lit.
Yeah, exactly. The fuse is lit, and you want to do some further study. So around about 2004, while I was still working, I looked around the universities in the UK for a degree course in Sikhi or a module in Sikhi or something I could do that was more than your simple reading about the books, And there was nothing in the whole of the UK. And I was like, hang on a minute, we've been here for 40 years. And you can find courses in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, but there was a serious, kind of just non-existence of any module even on Sikhi.
Yep.
I emailed Leeds Uni, I emailed Birmingham, nothing going on. So I thought, okay, knowing what the gurus teach, you're kind of inspired by what the gurus say. If something needs doing, rather than whinging about it, get on and do it yourself. So my plan in my head was, okay, somehow slowly I'm going to get into academia and try and change the situation. Hopefully start a course on Sikhi at some stage. So I started a master's in 2005 called Religion and Public Life at Leeds Uni, and luckily my workplace let me do my master's part-time along with the job. So I'd work, a normal job, but on Thursday afternoons I'd leave early, go to the module, and it was basically one lecture a week for 2 years and dissertations every semester. So I did that. Did very well in that. I got a distinction in that. My final year master's dissertation was all about why Sikhs, why young Sikhs wear the hair and the turban. So a lot of the academic literature was saying secularization meant that there was going to be a decline in religion, people becoming less religious. But I was seeing, in Gurdwaras, I was seeing young people, more young people wearing the stars, exactly, keeping the dari, women wearing the stars as well. So on the one hand, the literature is saying secularization, on the other hand, anecdotally, you see all these people now keeping the identity. So I was interested in that. So I wrote my master's dissertation on young Sikhs, hair and the turban, and that's been published as an article, got a distinction in that. And at that time, luckily for me, sort of timings-wise, the Research Council's produced a programme called Religion and Society. So this was a really big £12 million research programme, which is going to last 5 years, and they wanted to, they were asking for proposals for projects. And my master supervisor said, put something in if you think you're interested, and we'll see how it goes. So as I said, when I was doing my master's research for my master's on the hair and the turban, I went to some camps. I talked to young people I knew, and I saw like
Sikh camps.
Sikh camps, yeah, Sikh camps. And I saw on the one hand, you go to Gurdwara and people on stage say, Dusi Andini, you don't bring your children don't come, you should bring your children. So there's all that stuff going on. On the other hand, there was all this other stuff going on. There were camps, there were Sikh societies, there was the internet was obviously emerging as well. So there were like two sort of different arenas of what I call arenas of transmission, where you've got people learning in the Gurdwara in a particular way, in a way they're used to, mainly first generation, and second generation are kind of learning, third generation learning in a completely different way. So I thought no one's really looked at that. So my proposal for my PhD was to examine religious transmission amongst 18 to 30-year-old British Sikhs. And luckily, so that they were out of 86 projects that were funded as part of this Religion Society program, one was on Sikhs, and that was yours. That was my, yeah. So
but you did what you said.
Well, I got PhD funding, but then it was a really interesting decision to make because, you know, I had this job, the job in IT, well paid, you know, good Indian job, you know, well done, and the thing was, do I give this up for this, you know, 3-year, 4-year scholarship, after which point there's no guarantee of anything. You know, I'll give up my well-paid job for a scholarship. I mean,
a career. So
but it's not glamorous. It's like I think I was getting £11,000 a year scholarship, which is you could just about, you know, survive on that really.
Minimum wage.
Well, exactly. So the choice was, do I give this up? And obviously, you know, I just thought, well, it was a risk at the time, but I thought if I don't do it now, I've got the funding. If I don't do it now, so this is funding that were paying my fees and this kind of small scholarship.
Yeah.
So I thought I either do it now or the opportunity goes. And I thought I can always kind of come back to IT if I. That's what I thought. I'm not sure whether that would have happened.
You do a refresher course and whatever.
So I quit my job in September 2008 it was. So I had this the career. I was like, what are you doing? You're mad. And I thought I was as well. Obviously, it was a risk. I quit my job in 2008. Started my PhD October 2008, and then, you know, as soon as I started, about a month later, we found out my son was on his way. Yep. so I was like, oh no, I've just quit my well-paid job, and like now I'm a student, and my son's on his way. So then I started the PhD, and then at the end of the PhD, 2 weeks before my viva, my daughter turns up. Yes, I'm like, oh my God. So my PhD's kind of bookended with
you literally
kids.
left a job, a very well-paid job and a career. Become a student and a father twice.
Yeah, exactly. In the space of 3 to 4 years. So yeah, it was.
Did you not feel any pressure? Did you not
big time?
Yeah.
Well, did I not think I was mad or?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's interesting, isn't it? I think if the kids had arrived before I'd got the PhD funding, I probably wouldn't have done it. I don't think.
Really?
When you're thinking about it,
you wouldn't, because it would. You wouldn't,
would you? It'd be mad, wouldn't it? You've got children. You're in a well-paid job. Why would you wouldn't give that up? Would you? You just wouldn't
be able to, would you?
Absolutely not. And even as a sense of responsibility, it's not something you would do. You wouldn't think. You think I'm a parent. I need to make sure that I've got an income. But I suppose it was the way it was meant to be. Absolutely, absolutely. So 2008, my PhD started. 2012. I finished it. I've published a number of articles from it, and then I've done a number of research projects since then. So
those research projects, you've had lived practices of anger.
Yeah.
Which were based around 1984.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
right.
diaspora.
That's right.
And how they handled that.
So it's interesting being in academia, and this is true of so many arenas in which we don't really have a presence. I think. And no one's to blame. It's not surprising that as migrants, you go for professions which are well paid and established, like medicine, accountancy, law. Business. Yeah. This is going to do well.
This is that sense of responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right.
We have children,
yes.
we have families, we have responsibilities.
Totally. So you want to go for a job where you're just going to make money for your family and your kids and etc. But that also means that we're underrepresented in a lot of other arenas. And we know this. We're underrepresented in politics, in academia, in charity work, in all these other.
But we always ask ourselves why. How come we're underrepresented?
Because we don't get involved in them, do we?
Don't, no.
And that's the thing. So I find you go to conferences and you learn about research projects, and you're probably one of a few brown faces, if that, and people are interested in what you're saying because it's a new perspective. It's something that they're not aware of. So I was invited to an event run by the research councils, which was it was a brainstorming event about connected communities. It was called. It was about how do you learn more about communities. So there were about 60 early career researchers in the room, and we were all having conversations. And then I remember the facilitator was really annoying. So a lot of people were getting quite angry, and we were just talking about anger. And then I got talking to 2 or 3 colleagues from the various universities around the country: Newcastle, Manchester, Sunderland. One guy was researching the fallout of the miners' strike in the 80s. Yeah. Someone else was researching.
Grievance stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. someone else was researching the impact of how people are represented in children's books on children.
No,
yeah, so representations of the way in which the way in which illustrations convey particular messages to people. So there were 3 or 4 people, researching different areas, and I thought, in terms of anger, 84 is an issue which a lot of Sikhs feel very strongly about, certainly. And I'd seen, so with my interest in young people, and because I find young people. Young people are kind of the cutting edge. They do things that are different. They're more aware of technology. They kind of try a lot. They try, new things.
They channel their anger in other ways.
Yeah, well, and this is what I'd seen. I'd seen events like Saffron Mike and When Lions Roar, and there were all these events taking place around the Sikh diaspora where young people were expressing how they felt about 84. And for many of them, they weren't even alive when 84 happened.
No,
a lot of
trauma,
which, it's exactly
studied trauma.
That's right. They're aware of this trauma as part of their history. It's something that's part of the community. Then they weren't around when it happened, but they want to talk about it. So there were all these artists doing things, and nobody really kind of analysed what was going on. So I thought I said to this group, I said, look, I think there's a really interesting set of people we can talk to here. The 84 issue is something that's very important for Sikhs, and it needs to be kind of raised at a particular level. So I mean, it wasn't a long project, but I basically interviewed artists whose art involved expressions of 84, like the Singh twins, and various other people around the UK. Many of whom take place in, who take part in Saffron Mike and other sorts of events. And it was fascinating to see how, art can be, because again, art isn't something. See, art's really interesting, isn't it? As a community, it's not something we encourage, but if you look at our
almost we frown upon it.
Yeah, but if you look at our history of poetry, I mean, Gavi Darbars and things like that, and the songs that the older generation sing, the Giddar, Boliyan, it's all art, but it's not framed as art, like as in a Western sense. It's just something that you.
It's a form of communication,
that's
of folklore,
right. That's
and passing on sort of heritage.
But in terms of as a means of counselling as well, it's a way people get things off their chest, isn't it? So it was fascinating to see young Sikhs doing that, and I think it's important as a community that we give our people. We give our older generation, the young generation spaces, and we recognise the importance. Because even the gurus were talking.
In that research,
yeah, go on.
Did you address the fact that these, historically heritage and cultural ways of transferring information and emotions and history to one another through art?
Yeah.
Gavis and the like.
Yeah.
The trauma of 1984, did that bring a sense of polarization as to what was and was not acceptable as a response to that trauma? When I'm saying that is, do you think that Sikhism became slightly isolationist, and they said, we can't be singing about this, and what, you're going to make fun or make light of it, and it should be a serious issue, and art and light-hearted.
Baji, all the art I saw, I mean, it certainly wasn't light-hearted, but it was
absolutely not.
Really, but it was really high quality. And
but that's a recent invention. It's 30 years.
Yeah.
What I mean is, in the intervening period, before this sort of renaissance by a new generation.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And again, I suppose it comes to the migrant mindset, where they don't really allow themselves the time to express what they feel. And you see this with a lot of issues in our community which we don't deal with. A lot of mental health issues, for example. A lot of it is to do with the lack of space for people to actually express how they feel.
Assault, sexual assault.
Absolutely, that's right.
These are things that
they all exist.
They choose to pretend they don't exist.
Absolutely. And I think art is a way in which people can safely talk about issues they might not want to actually verbalise.
But can they safely?
Depends.
We've had plays and you've been shut down here in Birmingham.
Okay, yeah, sure. So the bit, yeah. I mean,
not all subjects are allowed on the table, so to speak.
I think the basic issue was the fact that it was set in a Gurdwara, wasn't it? I mean, I think it'd be. I think if the play had been set in a community centre, I mean, who knows what would have happened? But it was certainly raised that it was an issue that the playwright raised was irrelevant. So I know online there were a lot of people talking about those sorts of issues
Absolutely, yeah.
in an open arena, some of the blogs and websites.
Since that, we have had now moments where questions are raised about people who primarily operate in temples, accused of, not very savoury things with people of their congregation. But Baz, your work, your research, you've examined British Sikhs, like you said, 18 to 30. We have, a new crop or a new generation of Sikhs coming through that are not necessarily born into Sikh families, but they've learnt, Sikhism through various ways, not necessarily the Gurdwara, camps, forums, and groups. With that in mind, and looking at the way the new generation is expressing itself in terms of what is and is not acceptable in the wider community or even in the Gurdwara, we've had the issues in Warwickshire not long ago. So with those in mind, what would you say through your research have you learnt about, say, extremism or radical thinking? Sure. And do these camps play a part in that?
So this is something I'm looking at the moment. I've got funding for a project from the research councils on Sikh radicalisation quotes in Britain. So basically, I'm looking at what the term actually means, who defines what it means, how Sikhs have been represented in media, which is very, very relevant to the occurrences in Warwickshire. And not just British media, but how it's represented in media around the world, how the concept of radicalisation is framed by policymakers, given the kind of context of post 9/11/7/7. So there's lots of interesting questions, and obviously I think I'll have more to say about this in 6 months, certainly.
And we'll have you on if you can.
No problem. But I think an important point to raise is, and you see a lot of this done by the state, that so they say, they often say Islam is a religion of peace. So and so is a religion of peace. Since when were religions, supposed to be peaceful? A lot of them arose as human rights or socialist reform movements, didn't they? And certainly Sikhi, as I see it, it's not something where you just sit around, like being peaceful. The Gurus didn't just sit around. They challenged inequalities where they saw them. They fought for human rights. So. Radical thinking, what does that actually mean? I mean, personally, I think it's the duty of a Sikh, if he sees an inequality or something that he thinks, isn't fair, to fight for justice. And if that's radical, that's radical. But isn't that what it means to be a Sikh?
It was radical. It was supposed to be the outsiders. Sikhs today assume that they shouldn't be seen as the other. Why are we going against the grain? That was the whole point of Sikhi, that at the time there were two established religions, that Guru Nanak was sent here to show had fallen into disrepute, for want of a better phrase. That's not for me to decide, but that's what Guru Nanak was sent here to do. And he did that. He did that in a very... universally, he was unpopular for that.
That's right, exactly.
So we're saying certain things should be allowed to happen in Gurdwara because we will look like radicals if we don't. We should take our wider community and
see that comes down to the issue of representation, doesn't it? And I think we're often concerned about representation, and that's because we're in a context in which the general public doesn't know who we are, basically, still. And
I think they do.
Well, they do where we are in the West Midlands.
In relation to the Warwickshire thing, there were headlines were sensationalised, and some of the comments under there on social media were quite
showed an
positive.
awareness of the 5Ks, for example.
Indeed,
So in the West Midlands. So it's taking a step back. The way in which RE works in this country is very dependent on where you live.
Yeah, it's regionalised.
Absolutely. So if you're in the West Midlands with a large Sikh population, you're more likely to get something about Sikhi taught in your schools, which isn't the case in Devon and Cornwall, Norwich or whatever, right? So the comments in relation to the Leamington event here, people are more aware of that, but the wider population You know, I mean, did you see the thing that the guy on the Bake Off, Rav Bansal, had a tweet against him saying, ISIS, wasn't it? Exactly. So the general population who aren't in areas,
so great,
exactly. So it very much depends on where you live. But if we were in the subcontinent, we wouldn't get asked the same sorts of questions as we are doing in the context of diaspora, where we're always going to be an other. And this is a very interesting question, which I'm trying to kind of
believe that.
I think because we are a visible minority. We are brown.
No, we'll always be another, but will we ever be an accepted other?
Well, what does that mean?
An accepted other means that a conversation about a city Seb never arises because it's just common knowledge.
Okay, so the issue there is common knowledge is a really good point, and that's where. And this is what I'm doing as an academic. I've been privy to some of these conversations where you're trying to influence conversations at a policy level, where you say that it's important. It shouldn't matter where you are as to what you get taught in RE.
Absolutely, this is another factor.
Nonsense. I mean, who cares? You know, it's a globalised world. Everybody should know about 6 main traditions. And there shouldn't be any favouritism. So now they're reducing it to 2. So now basically you only have to choose 2. And the 2 that normally get chosen are Christianity, because the teachers know about it, and Islam, because it's basically very similar in a lot of ways in terms of some of the Abrahamic religion. Yeah. So you kind of sort of buy one get one free for the students. Yeah. But why should you only learn about 2 traditions? Given the state of the world and given the role that religion is playing, so there are fights that we need to fight at a different level to the fights that we're fighting now, if that makes sense.
In boardrooms and not on the streets and Nadi Baji.
Certainly, yeah.
Baji, there's a lot more to ask you yet. We're beginning to get towards the end of the first half.
Right.
If you will allow me to just ask the audience at home to not leave us, we'll be back in a moment with more encounters and Dr. Jasjit Singh. Welcome back to Encounters here on Akal channel. We're still here with Dr. Jasjit Singh, academic and researcher in Sikh studies. Basically.
Yeah.
Buddy, you know, your work with Sikh societies, camps and stuff. What do you think is their positives? What do you think they can sort of adapt to make more effective?
Sure. So it was really interesting. So I researched Sikh societies in the UK. In universities around the country, so in the north of England, the Midlands and the south, I visited a number of events, and they have a number of roles, both social and religious. So obviously, I remember when I was a student, when I first went to Manchester, the drinking culture is very interesting if you've never encountered it before.
No.
So I was like,
Manchester. I have in London.
But I was like, well, okay. I remember my first night. I was like, okay, what do I do here when everyone else is doing something that you've not really done previously? And that's where you see the role of Sikh societies in particular, because they always go bowling. But there's a certain kinds of events which are kind of safe, and people kind of do them comfortably without feeling the need to participate in the general student drink culture. But what I found in terms of religious transmission was really interesting. So there were different kinds of universities in the UK, as we know. You've got your kind of Oxbridge universities, your Russell Group universities. You've got your, the 1960s universities like Warwick, for example. You've got your post-92 universities, so the ex-polys like Derby and stuff like that. And I found a different kind of faith societies existed in different kinds of universities, depending on the the number of students that were at the university from a local area. So, for example, the Oxbridge Russell Group universities would attract students from a much more diverse geographical, area. So you'd get people. So in Leeds, for example, you get people from London, Birmingham, all over the place. Whereas the post-92 universities are more often attract students from a local area. So one post-92 university in particular, it was interesting to see how many students who in the Sikh society had attended a particular local gurdwara. So you could see how the gurdwara the slant of that particular gurdwara had brought itself into the post-92 Sikh society, which I never found was the case in a kind of more established society from a different. So it's really interesting. The ones from the post-92 ones are often more focused around particular issues, particular issues relating to particular Maryadas and particular Sikh issues. Whereas
would you say it was Jathebandi based?
It's primarily Jathebandi based, yeah. Whereas the more established universities often they do kind of wider topics about the usual suspects, about homosexuality, abortions, caste, blah blah blah. So there were different subjects being discussed at different kinds of institution. And when I asked the students why they joined the Sikh societies, the main reason was to meet other Sikhs, basically. So they know the clock's ticking in terms of, biak.
Okay,
but not just that, though. But, it was to socialise as well, obviously. And so it was to meet other Sikhs, to learn about Sikhi, to find out about the local Sikh community, to go to the Gurdwara. Those are the main sorts of reasons that people joined the Sikh societies. Some didn't want to join them because some didn't join them because they thought they were too religious. And some didn't join them because they thought they weren't religious enough. They thought exactly. So you get two extremes. So they're really interesting arenas. But I suppose the point to make is that they don't really last that long in terms of, you arrive in September, then October. You have your first event, which is the meet and greet samosa. Everyone turns up for the samosa, and then it kind of numbers kind of decrease, and then you get exams, and then by the end of March, you get a new committee. So there's only really a kind of Sikh in the Sikh society as a whole.
Yeah, Baji, with regard to those Sikh societies and stuff, would you say that the renaissance that we're seeing today with the youth, because there was at a time, you've alluded to it earlier, there was a perpetual fear within Gurdwara that the youth are not coming to the Gurdwara. You said that earlier.
Yeah, definitely.
Speeches at the
absolutely, yeah.
So with regards to those speeches, and now we see Sikhs with the Star Tari, Kes Tari, Lamia Dariya, coming out of universities. That age group, the 18 to 30 age group, very well represented.
Absolutely.
Is the Sikh Surup,
Yeah, totally.
Sabat Surat.
Yep.
So with that in mind, what role would you say that the Sikh societies and the universities have played in that?
I think it's given a lot of them a sense of confidence. They've engaged with their tradition in a way they haven't really been able to do before, and they've been able to discuss topics So
there's a certain amount of pride involved.
Well, there's certainly a certain amount of pride, and also the fact that often if you used to ask questions at home, you just get told this is what we do. Basically is the answer.
Became ritualised.
Yeah, exactly. But whereas you get an opportunity to discuss things, and also what's also changed in the West in particular is that so previously people would get married much younger in their early 20s, 22, 23. Now people are getting married much later on. So you've got like a good 8 years to kind of find out more about yourself, who you are, your identity. There's less now, so sociologically, there's less people who actually stay in one profession all the time. So there's more of a kind of idea of moving around, changing things, exploring different things as well. You get married later.
Going from an IT job.
Well, exactly. That's right. you kind of, people now also live with their parents for longer, primarily for financial reasons, which also means you haven't got the financial burden of a house and a mortgage as early as you used to have. So again, this 22 to 30-year-old phase is kind of becoming more and more important for identity searching, which is why you see a lot of the young Sikhs now of that age range in particular taking on identities or getting involved in Sikh issues more than they would have done before. Certainly more than the older generation who would have basically had to work as migrants and would have been married much younger. So they wouldn't have had the same amount of time to explore.
Okay.
Yeah.
As devil's advocate time.
Go on. Yeah, go for it.
With this renaissance, with this population sort of spurt, with regard to baptised Sikhs and initiated Ummatai Sikhs. Their representation, we talk about representation, Sikhs are not represented in Parliament, media, in the arts.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not represented at Gurdwara committee level either.
They're not, no.
Do you know why?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because it's, well, it is very hard work, I think. I know of some young Sikhs who've tried to get involved in Gurdwara committees, and it's almost a full-time job. So
it should be.
It should be. Well, it should be. Yeah. If it isn't, it should be. There are things are changing, aren't there? There are certain committees there are certain Gurdwaras, certainly even in the West Midlands, which do have youth committees now.
But they don't have youth committees. They have youth representation on the committees.
Yeah.
So is that a token gesture? Knowing that the times are changing, I think what's happening is that the Gurdwaras they still cater primarily for an older generation Sangat, I think. Yes.
And
traditional
Sangat. Punjabi is still the main language. So people have been here since the 60s. Things are kind of continuing where they are. The older generation, although if you look at the census data now, the largest, out of all the age groups, I think a third of the British Sikh population is between the ages of 15 and 35. A third. And that's only going to kind of, go down and down. So it'll be, that's where the largest percentage is. So the Gurdwaras are going to, if they're not already, are going to have to cater for that particular age range. That was as of 2011. And also, of all the South Asian communities in Britain, the Sikhs are the only ones with a higher percentage of UK born than the others. So 56% of Sikhs in the UK are UK born, whereas I think it's only a third in the case of Hindus and maybe 45% in the case of Muslims, something like that. I've got the actual figures, obviously, but what I do know is that Sikhs are primarily UK born and primarily a young population, the British Sikh population. So Gurdwaras they're making efforts, but I still think that the way in which our institutions are run are still based on a Punjabi kind of archaic model, aren't they? Yeah. Still, archaic or what? It's a different model, isn't it? It's a model based in the subcontinent.
Well, it's a model based on the needs of a community in a village.
Yeah.
So archaic would be because it's a third world country. Yeah. They don't have the same utilities and facilities that we have and we require here.
Yeah.
That moves on brilliantly to my next question anyway. So the next question is, what is the requirements of our youngsters and our upcoming community and generations, and are the Gurdwara meeting those responsibilities?
So what's really interesting, and this really kind of made me smile. So over summer I went to Edinburgh for a holiday with my family, and on Princess Street, which is the main street in Edinburgh, as I say, my 6-year-old son was becoming quite upset with the poor people he was seeing on the street. And he's like, Dad, what can I do about this? What can I do? So we gave him some bars to give out and things. And walking along Princess Street, and then he excitedly says, "Look, Dad, there's the Sikhs." I said, "What?" He goes, "Look, the Sikhs are giving out free food." And we walked up, and I was like, "Yes." There's Good Alex Free Kitchen on Princess Street in Edinburgh. And I was like, brilliant, this is what it's about. So I talked to the guys there, and they said the Gurdwaras prepare the langar, and then the young people bring it from the Gurdwara and put it on the street. So I think everyone has their role to play. But I think the young people with the knowledge that they have of how the West works, we can make the Gurdwaras shine in different ways and bring them out more. But
you've used that as an example of what the Gurdwara are beginning to do.
Yeah.
There's an example of the same thing here in the West Midlands.
Yeah, with Midlands Longest.
I wouldn't want to name.
Okay,
but they've had, they've had to move their operations out of the Gurdwara.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for reasons that I don't know of.
I wasn't aware of that.
So I wouldn't really want to go into detail.
Sure.
But I know that the Gurdwara was not happy with them using it. That may well have been, resolved since I last spoke.
But even if they're not, the young Sikhs know about are aware of Sikh principles, so they're aware of the need to, give out.
Yeah. But the question was, are the Gurdwara meeting the needs of the new generation?
Okay, so one week when I was doing my PhD, I spent a week in various Gurdwaras just to see who turned up when, and you often assume, and a lot of research does this as well. It assumes that congregations are Sunday. Sunday is the day for congregations. Yeah. But if you sit in a Gurdwara and watch who turns up when, you'll see people turning up before they go to work. You'll see people turning up at various times of the day, people on their way back home, and a lot of these are young people. A lot of these are people who want to go to the Gurdwara, they want to engage with the Guru, they want to matha take to the Guru, but they don't want any of the hassle of who's wearing which suit,
Absolutely.
who's turning up with who, blah, blah, blah. They don't want the gossip, they don't want to be on the radio, blah, blah, blah. You know, they just want to do their little bit. So, and what I think Gurdwaras do provide is, if they do, and they should provide this without the without the politics, is they provide a space in an increasingly stressful society for people just to, you know, sit down and just chill for a bit, chill for a bit,
just relax
on their own terms. Which is why I think Gurdwaras that stay open all the time. I mean, it's brilliant. You know, even when I'm travelling around the world, you'll know if a Gurdwara's there and it's open, you can just go there for a break. And
nobody asks you anything.
Nobody should ask you.
Yeah,
nobody asks you anything. And I think in today's society, there are few places like that. If you think about it, really, there are few places where you can just, okay, this is my break time. And that I think the value of Gurdwara, I think Gurdwaras underestimate the role that plays. I don't think that the man actually realise what an important role that actually is for an increasingly busy, hectic life. You know,
absolutely.
And
just that moment of
that's important. Absolutely,
tranquility.
That's important, and I think, as we talked about Langar, you know, it's an amazing facility. We're always the ones giving out the food and stuff. That's, you know, whatever issues are, but that is kind of being taken out of the Gurdwara to society, to the real world.
Absolutely. And in terms of whether it goes from the Gurdwara,
and in terms of representation, it's all right, and this is one thing that I think the Gurus talk about as well. It's fine to say what you believe. I believe in this. I believe in that. It doesn't really do anybody any good. The Gurus wanted to see actions, didn't they? And
Absolutely.
I think that is
they
what
live by example.
That is what makes a difference. Getting out there, because in Edinburgh, the people were amazed that they were giving out, you know, dal chol in cartons. It's just like that's what makes the difference, isn't it?
But do you think it should end at Langar though?
No, it shouldn't end at Langar at all. No, not at all.
You fed somebody. How have you encouraged them to come?
No, sure. I mean, okay. So the issue about that is, that's a really good point. So over the last year, I've also been doing a project for English heritage on minority faith buildings, and I was tasked to look at Hindu mandirs. I asked to do that on purpose because I thought, if I do Gurdwaras, I know Gurdwaras anyway. I'll walk in and I'll assume I know what's going on. I thought, let me try something different. And I tell you what, it isn't easy. I mean, the Hindu mandirs are great, but to go into a different place of worship, it ain't easy.
It's keep an open mind.
Exactly.
Because it's difficult.
To kind of make sure you're not, you know, because when people come to visit,
prejudged and
that's right,
preconditions.
You know, people come and say, oh, I don't want to offend anybody, and we say, don't worry about it, you can't offend anybody. But now I understand what they mean. You walk into an alien environment, you're like, actually, I don't know what's going on here. And I've talked to people who do the Langar, or who've taken part in Langar, and some of the non-Sikhs would say that they're not sure about what to do, how to get into a Gurdwara. So I'm not sure we're ready yet to run events in Gurdwaras for a non-Sikh population. Not because we can't do it, because I'm not sure the non-Sikh population would be comfortable enough to attend events in our institutions.
There's an organisation that organises Langar Week.
Yeah, Langar Week, yeah.
That's the sort of initiative that will prepare the outside community or the native community.
Absolutely.
To walk into a Gurdwara, feel comfortable to partake in Langar.
Yes.
You know, a whole week.
Now, Langar Week works very well. I mean, we did it in Leeds as well. We did it in town, and people, again, were really engaging with it. But it's still... See, this is all about space, isn't it? Yeah. Public space is very different to private space, isn't it? Yeah. Public space is safe.
Oh, do you? So in Leeds,
it was in Dortmund Square in the city centre. It was in, the
majority of the Langar Week is where Gurdwara joined the initiative, and they actively encourage people to come to the Gurdwara. Eat Langar at the Gurdwara. And you know,
well, it'd be interesting to see what the difference in attendance is. But I mean, the one in the city centre was just it went on for 2 hours, and it was basically non-stop. People were just coming all the time because again, public space versus private space.
Absolutely, yeah. But with regard to your ongoing research, you're looking at extremism.
Yeah.
Are you anticipating anything coming from that research that will be sort of non-favourable?
Well,
to the Sikh community.
So I've started off, and I'm looking at media representations at the moment. I've just spent a month or so looking at media representations, and what's very interesting is I looked at old newspapers, of how the British media represented Sikhs, and from the Anglo-Sikh Wars onwards, and really, really interesting. So you see, it starts off saying, who are these guys? Don't know who they are. Then it kind of talks about them as a martial race. They're really good fighters. They helped us in the mutiny, blah blah blah. But then when the Morche start, the Agali Morche, then all of a sudden they become extremists. And it's fascinating to see the switch. It's like, now they're extremists because they're fighting against us. And then when the First World War starts, they're back to being good soldiers again. So,
loyal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the question I have is, who frames these words? Who frames the use of these words? Will anything negative come out? I want to see. I want to see, Baji. What I want to know is, I want to learn more about the people involved, basically. What are their stories? People don't just do things for no reason. There's always a reason why people take an action. And I think the media too often just wants to kind of generalise and sensationalise action A is taken because of, reason A all the time. But we're complex creatures. I want to understand more about, back to 84, what impact did, so some people have anecdotally spoken to in the UK, families, their families were decimated in November 84, and you understand there's a lot, people have a lot of stories to tell, but nobody's, again, we're back to where we started, nobody's actually talked to them about this sort of thing. So I'm interested to see what stories are out there, basically.
But there's never been an initiative in the UK to collate these stories?
No.
Is that something you'd be interested in?
I definitely would be. Absolutely right. Yeah. I'll hopefully be something that would kind of follow on from the project, certainly, because the issue we have is that our first generation is kind of slowly we're losing our first generation
without ever having spoken to them. Of the knowledge they possess.
Some of the stories. You must have the same talk to your grandparents and parents like that.
Absolutely. Some
of the journeys from my dad got 2 flights via Cairo, and we think we're intrepid adventurers backpacking for like 2 weeks or something, but these guys are doing crazy 6-week boat treks. So there's a lot of stories out there which I think we would lose a lot if we didn't kind of make some efforts to preserve them. Certainly.
Do you think the sort of Western institutions, our institutions, I say Western, they're our institutions, we're British as we are. Yeah. So are there institutions we should be approaching to help us with these? Yeah,
certainly the Heritage Lottery Fund, and there are Sikh organisations like GT 1588 who are actually making efforts to do that sort of thing. But there's nothing stopping us. There's nothing stopping us making records already. We don't have to wait for a project,
No, but where would we house them?
Well, this is it. This is the question. I suppose in the current digital age, it wouldn't make sense to house things online, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to have it in a specific space, and there's no reason why people couldn't digitize photographs and blog about their accounts.
It would be, in a sense, if we could centralise that.
Absolutely.
That would be somewhere. In a building.
Okay,
if we were to have, like Derby has the National History Museum of Sikh history.
Artifacts, sure.
So these sort of, I know that primarily there would be there would be video or audio testimonies of our predecessors or the generation before us. But if that was centralised, that would then become somewhere where we can congregate and share stories, rather than comments and social media sort of aspect to it. We'll actually be able to physically look at each other and share a joy.
We can have both, why not? We could have both,
How would we go about doing that?
Look for funding, basically. Leave it with us. But it's something that's been in the back of my head for a while, because I've been aware of the kind of TikTok of the time. But as I say, young Sikhs in particular, we're all digitally savvy now. There's nothing stopping us now digitizing our old photographs and getting accounts of our parents and grandparents down,
putting stories
up. Stick them on Facebook.
There should be several books at least by now.
Absolutely.
That say, this is the Indian story.
It doesn't need to be anything like, super kind of flashy related research, academic research. It just needs to be an account and some pictures. And what it does is, so it leads actually, we have something called the Community Religions Project, where we've been taking photographs of religious buildings in Leeds since 1976, and you see how they change and some of the things. Yeah, and it's a really interesting history, isn't it? It's all because that's one thing as a second, third generation migrant quotes diaspora community, we need context. We all need context. We need to know where we're situated, how we're situated in the UK, and all this stuff will help us understand our place in society.
I'd be interested to know how many what used to be churches have become mosques and gurdwara
absolutely
since then, because that is something that is vocalised a lot by people like Britain First.
That's true.
Like that.
That's true.
And our places of worship are being taken over. We've been taken over, unfortunately, by time.
Well, okay.
Time flies when you're having fun. This has been one of the more enjoyable.
Thanks so much for having me on.
I've lost my focus and concentration several times. Just really enjoying.
I talk a lot. Sorry.
But if it was waffle, I wouldn't have let you carry on.
No worries.
It was enjoyable. It was something we all have the opportunity to learn from. It's a privilege to have members like you in our community, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
We do appreciate that. We appreciate what you've done. You could have carried on being an IT consultant, a computer scientist. And,
I still sit in front of computers now, though, but it's for a different reason.
Absolutely, yeah. But anyway, you just start racking your brains about it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all we've got time for this week on Encounters. We hope you've enjoyed it. We are trying our hardest to bring you an ordinary conversation with extraordinary people, and the Sikh nation community in the UK is blessed with many of those individuals. One of those has been today Dr. Jasjit Singh, and we'll bring you another one next week, so stay tuned to Akal Channel Encounters. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.